Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. So, once again, I'm going to start with a quote that I found this week. So, the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching a goal, the tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. And that's from Benjamin Mays. So, this is quite timely because I've had a couple of one to one calls this morning and a group call with members of the Stronger for Life course. Um, Many of these members are very new to strength training at the start of the process in the course, and we were talking a lot about goal setting within that. And one member in particular wasn't sure whether she'd kind of gone about it in the right way because when she really thought about it, there's nothing necessarily she wanted to achieve. Was a lot more frail with some conditions that meant that she wasn't able to enjoy life in the fullest, and she knew that her mother was it's very difficult for her to take any action about that now, but she's in a period of time where she feels strong and healthy and she wants to take advantage of that now to be able to avoid that vision of a future that she has. And she wasn't sure that if that counted as a goal and whether that was the right kind of thing with this goal planning process. And it whether your goal is something you want to achieve specifically or whether it's something you want to try and avoid, the planning process, the important part of it is you're thinking about it and you're really working out what you want to get out of it from doing strength training, trying to be stronger. So for her, yes, it very much, if you can think of all the things in the future or your future vision of yourself that you don't want to end up happening, that is a goal. It's hard to put a tangible kind of time frame on and things like that, which sometimes people tell you have to have with these SMART goals. But she's gone through the process of really thinking about what she wants to get out of strength training and why she's doing it. And it's that why that is the important thing, because there's a lot of people, and the great thing is that strength training as an older adult is being talked about a lot more. So you listen to some of the Michael Mosley is the name I'm trying to think of, his podcast, and some of the American ones like Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia. More and more people are talking on a larger scale about the fact that we should be doing strength training as an older adult, and why it's important. So a lot of people then think, okay, well maybe I'll try and I'll start, and they start and they've missed the goal planning phase. So they know that they should be doing it, but they haven't really thought about it, how it's going to improve their life and why they particularly are going to benefit from doing it. So they lose their motivation and they tend to give up on it. Whereas if you've really thought about what you want to get from it, you're a lot more likely to stick to the process and keep that discipline of turning up. So really important you keep that in mind. So again, I'll just read that again. The tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching a goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. And then I have one more quote from that member of the Stronger for Life course, and I thought it was fantastic, so I said I was going to share it. So it's, I don't want to grow old gracefully, I want to grow old kicking and screaming. And I thought that was brilliant because there's another one you might have heard me talk about, is the fact that people just assume frailty is a natural part of getting older. And because they don't know there's another option, they tend to just let it happen. But yes, there is another option. We don't necessarily have to accept frailty as that part of getting older. We can start to try and do things now that are going to try and limit the chances that frailty is going to become an issue, or it's going to shorten the space of time and push it later on in life before that does become an issue, so that you can stay active and enjoy an active retirement, an active future that you might have been looking forward to. Because I do, in the physio clinic, I see it all the time. People had all these plans in mind of what they're going to do when they retire, and then at the moment they retire, they start to try and think about doing them, and then something comes up, whether it's knee pain, whether it's an operation they have to have, something like that, and they just then feel like they've missed out on it. And if you're in a position now, you feel healthy and you feel quite strong, don't lose that. Now's the time to take action. It's going to be far easier now than it is later on. So yeah, I don't want to grow old gracefully, I want to grow old kicking and screaming. So with that in mind, and how important goal planning is, You might well be interested to know about the Never Told to Lift ebook. So this is a completely free ebook you can download. It will guide you from the point of never having really lifted weights before, or having done it in the past but had a big gap, and it's at the very beginner stages, and it will guide you through that goal planning process, but then it will help you put together a 12-week strength training program based around your individual needs and ability levels. So if that's something you're interested in, completely free download. You just need to put your name and email in, and that'll get sent over to you. So it's nevertoldtolift.com/start-here, or if you just look in the description below, you'll see a link to it there. Oh, sorry, let's hide that. So, welcome. My name's Chris. I'm a physiotherapist, and I'm here once again. So every Wednesday at 12 o'clock, I come on this live stream, and I want to help you with any questions that you might have about getting started with strength training as an older adult. Whether it is about getting started, or whether you've recently started and there's just a few questions that have cropped up and you just want to clarify those with someone, then please do take the opportunity to ask me. There are no stupid questions. If you're thinking of it, someone else is probably thinking it too. Whether you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, just use YouTube, and just watch. If you use the chat feature or the comment section, and you can ask your questions, and they'll come up to me on the screen, and I can bring those up and answer those as they come through. And as always, it's really helpful if you're watching this, if you could just click the thumbs up button under the video, and just like that does help the algorithm, and it starts to share it out to more people, and hopefully we get more people on the call that we can start to help and inspire people to take action. So as always, I've come prepared with 3 questions that I'm going to answer, and then if any more come in, then we'll go through those there. So this one actually came in just in the last sort of dying seconds of my last live stream last Wednesday, and I didn't quite see it in time before I'd clicked end call. So this came in, and so they said, if you can only do a few minutes, is one particular exercise generally better? So if you've only got a few minutes, and a few minutes is maybe a little bit too short, say we're talking 5, possibly 10 minutes to be able to do a workout, and you just don't have half an hour or an hour to commit to a workout, then I would pick one exercise for that workout rather than trying to fit in 2 or 3. And I would still aim to try and do 3 sets of maybe 10 to 15 repetitions of that exercise. Now, you may have heard me talk before, and if you've seen the ebook, you'll know that I'm a big fan of functional movement patterns. And I tend to find if you're only doing one exercise, in general, they're going to be better than isolated exercises where you might be doing something like a bicep curl where you're only working the biceps. If you're doing something like a squat, you're working multiple muscle groups at the same time to achieve a movement that is very similar to one that you'll do on a day-to-day basis. So it's going to have a little bit more bang for your buck than just doing an isolated exercise. And if strength is the thing we're thinking about, with that one exercise you're going to do in that little window of time, we do want to try and reach muscle fatigue if we can. So we want the last repetition you do to be almost the last one that you could have managed, and you don't want to be left thinking I could have done 5 or 6 more. So if you then did your exercise, you did it 10 to 15 times, you'd have a minute or two's rest, and you go in, do another 10 to 15, minute or two's rest, another 10 to 15. So again, that might take you between 5 and 10 minutes, and that would be fine to do. And I would generally suggest, if there's 7 functional movement patterns, but I would try and prioritize out of those. The squat is definitely a big one, because that's one that you do several times a day, and if we can improve your squat, it will really help sort of day-to-day living. A form of hip hinge is another one. Then we've got push, and then we've got pull, are kind of the 4 that I would normally prioritize. So a pull might be where you've got a resistance band and you're pulling it towards you. Push, you might do a shoulder press. Hip hinge, you might do a bridge on the floor. And then squat, you can do a squat, sit down and stand up from a chair. Because if you're only doing one on one day, then I think you definitely need to be doing at least on another day, you would pick a different exercise and a different one. So you could do 4 of these very short workouts rather than doing one big sort of 30 to 60-minute workout. Interestingly, you might find that actually, and last week I referenced this book, Atomic Habits, quite a bit, that you might find that if you then get started and you put aside 5 minutes, which is quite easy to think, right, I'll turn up. Because if you think about, I'm going to do 30 minutes, it's easy to talk yourself out of it and then not get started. But if you did a 5-minute workout, you might find that actually once you've done your 3 sets of that exercise, you feel warmed up, you feel like you've got some endorphins, and you feel, you know what, I'm here now, I might as well carry on. Then you can pick your second exercise, and you might find that you actually do that, and then actually you still feel in a good flow with it, and you pick a third one. But like I say, if you aim to do 3 different exercises to start with, you probably might have turned up in the first place. So this can be actually a really good way of doing it, is only thinking, I only have to commit to a few minutes, let's get started. And then you might find you just naturally do more as a result of that. And then the other thing that I spoke about with this member of Stronger for Life earlier was there is a school of thought, which I think is referenced in Atomic Habits, that committing to doing something every day is actually easier than committing to do something 3 times a week. Because if you're doing something 3 times a week, you've got to make a decision, which days am I going to do it on, and that's a thought process that you can maybe say, well, actually I'm going to leave it today and do it tomorrow, and it gives you that option of missing and skipping, which eventually you might skip too many that you think, oh, I haven't actually got 3 days left, so I might as well skip all and start again next week. Whereas if you have to do it every single day, you'll find that that choice is taken away from you. You have to turn up and do it every day. And an example of that is I've just reached my, I think it's 540th day in a row of doing Duolingo, and it tracks your streak. And I don't have the choice of missing a day because I don't want to lose that streak. So I've built it into my routine. Every night as I get into bed, I do my quick 1 lesson. Sometimes that 1 lesson turns into 4, 5 or 6 lessons, in the same way as if you just did a few minutes, it might turn into more. My French learning does the same. I only have to do 1 lesson, which I can do as little as 2 or 3 minutes. But sometimes I find I'm there for 20, 25 minutes, just trying to do more and get more out of that. So it sometimes can be easier to do things every day. You do need to kind of factor in recovery time in there. So you'd make sure if you did legs on one day, you wouldn't necessarily do legs on the next day, so your legs get a bit of recovery in there. But it's absolutely fine to do that. You could do 7 5 to 10 minute workouts rather than 2 60-minute workouts if that's going to suit you better. There is no one right way of doing this. There's lots of ways to getting stronger. We just got to keep to the general principles. If we do want to push muscles to fatigue in order to allow them to recover, to build strength as a result of doing that. But hopefully that helps. But I think there isn't one magic exercise. If you've only got time to do 1 exercise, that's the only exercise you'll ever do. You do need to kind of mix up which exercises you're doing. So if you are just doing a few minutes, let's say you do a few minutes each day rather than just doing that once or twice a week. But yeah, hopefully that helps with that. But if there's any follow-on questions from that, then please do let me know. Let's hide that one here. And then off the back of last week's call, the live stream, there was a comment that came in just afterwards. So it's my shoulder joints hurt when benching. So that's bench press or chest press, if anyone's wondering what that means to. So my shoulder joints hurts when benching since I've got older. When benching since I've got older. When benching, I never had any problems. Can you help? So again, that's quite small there. So I've just kind of taken out of here. So just to rephrase, my shoulder joints hurt when benching since I've got older. Can you help? So I'll start by saying it's very difficult to. There's lots of things that can contribute to shoulder pain during any movement or day-to-day things. In the same way, there's lots of different reasons for knee pain. There's lots of different reasons for back pain. And just on that information alone, it's very difficult to say a specific diagnosis and then a specific management plan from there. So I wouldn't be able to necessarily going to give you too much individual advice for that. But what I can say, there's certain things that if people mention that they're struggling with shoulder pain, there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about that might be of benefit to you and might be of benefit to anyone else who's watching this who has got similar types of pains or symptoms during the bench press or chest press. So first one can be around a bit of an imbalance between the strength of the chest and the push muscles versus those of the pull muscles at the back. Males, particularly when they're younger, are doing strength training more about the aesthetics and trying to get the beach body than they are their ability to do functional tasks, where what I'm tending to find is as we do strength training as an older adult, you're not less bothered about how you look, but it's more about the ability to do things day to day and play with the grandchildren and pick them up and so on. But so when we're looking at doing things aesthetically, most people get stuck in this trap if they want the big kind of pec, big chest muscles, big biceps, and sort of strong abs, and people aspire to get that six pack, and they don't think about their back quite so much because they can't see it, so they're not too bothered about what that looks like. So that can lead to a slight kind of rounding sometimes when they're doing the exercises and they don't have the strength to counter that, and that can then sometimes mean the tendons are put in a position during those exercises where they're getting loaded more than we might want to, which generally isn't an issue when you're younger. But if it's something that's developed pain now, if you're not already doing pull-based exercises, so that could be a seated row, so it could be you're doing it with a fixed machine, or you could do it with a resistance band, but you're taking your hands from a position and you're pulling them in towards you. It could be a lat pull down where you're pulling down. It could be a bent over row, something that is a pull-based action that works that part of the back. It could be pull-ups or chin-ups. But you want to make sure you're not just doing the chest-based exercises and the bicep exercises. You want to make sure that you're also doing your back-based exercises as well. And sometimes just by incorporating those, suddenly that kind of, if you feel like you're supported from the back, everything at the front goes, oh, I can let go now. And that helps to reduce that pain when you are doing bench press. Then the other one that is really helpful is thinking about your rotator cuff muscles. So some people have heard of them, some people haven't. They're these four small muscles that come from the shoulder blade, and they come into the sort of side of the shoulder. So one comes more from the front and the others come a bit more around the back. And they kind of create a supportive cuff around the shoulder, and they're working in unison to try and help the movement, or help guide the movement as you're lifting above your head. So the big muscles kind of produce the force to come up, but these kind of position the joint and keep it centered as you're going up to try and allow for most efficient movement as you're doing that. And what can sometimes happen is, whether it's in reaction to pain, whether it's just weakness, or it's just sometimes it's just a kind of movement, kind of imbalance that's built, is the rotator cuff muscles either get slightly weak or they're not working as efficiently as they could do. So we find that your big muscle groups and the muscles in the front, the pecs, or sometimes the lats, overwork to try and create the stability, but they're also then producing the movement. So they're trying to do two jobs at once, and they can then become painful as a result. So sometimes if we can incorporate rotator cuff exercises into your workout, or even sometimes doing it as a warm-up before you start your bench press, that can help reduce the symptoms. Some people who think they've heard of rotator cuff and they think they're doing the right exercises, they stand next to a cable machine and they pin their elbow in at the side and they pull it across and back out. The problem with this is, in that position with my elbow here, my pecs are in the prime position to take over. So if we've already got overactive pecs and the rotator cuff muscles aren't working quite as effectively as they could do, particularly if you go heavy with a cable machine, your pecs overwork still, and your rotator cuff muscles can't sort of do the job they should be doing because these are already overactive. So sometimes doing it in a position here the pecs are now in a really inefficient position to work, so they're nice and relaxed, and then you can start to do that rotational motion to get the rotator cuff muscles to do the job. And because they're smaller muscles, they don't need a huge amount of weight. So there's hopefully this will work. I've got a little video here, so let me just skip forward slightly. So this is a really nice position here that you're going to do. So you're going to take your arm, is about 90 degrees away from your body, and my elbow stays at 90 degrees, and I'm just going to rotate the arm so my arm goes back. So I'm trying to get my watch face to kind of touch the floor if I can. And then as I come forwards, you don't get quite as much movement forwards, but then you're going to go forwards there. And because the pecs and the lats are in a really inefficient position, they can't overwork and take over here, so the rotator cuff gets to work. I then generally follow that up with this movement here. So I pin my elbow in at the side, and then I lift that arm up and slowly down. So I'm not moving my body or rotating my body to create extra motion. I'm just keeping it all from the shoulder. And then I finish off with, and again, I normally do about 10 to 15 of these. I'm lifting my arm straight up to ceiling and slowly back down again. So that's a nice little routine. Apologies for that. My computer just suddenly crashed and started to restart itself. So for anyone who's watching, we were just looking at this routine of exercises for the rotator cuff. So I can slowly lower my hand there and then take that back. So my pecs and my lats aren't in a position where they're overly working or able to work, and it's more my rotator cuff that are going to get the work out of that. Then the next exercise, I'm pinning my elbow down by my side and then lifting that back up again. And then another exercise there is keeping the arm straight and back up to the ceiling. So I want to get light enough that I don't feel like I have to really brace everything and able to lift that up. It's a slowly down, slowly up. So that's a really nice option there. Then the other option that's really useful is weight bearing through the arm is a great way of getting the rotator cuff muscles to work. So you can do things in all fours or plank position or sort of press up type position. And that's another brilliant way of getting the rotator cuff muscles to work. And then the last thing I really like, and you can try this, is it'll probably be a weight that's less than your you would normally use for a bench press, but you're going to use a kettlebell if you can with a weight above the handle rather than the weight below it. So you hold the handle, weight above there, and as you're pressing up, the weight is going to try and keep falling down. So you have to really get your grip, but also you have, as you come up, the stability around the shoulder is being challenged, and that's going to really use those rotator cuff muscles. So again, apologies for that being disrupted there, but hopefully with the two pieces there, that will help with that. So just as a reminder for anybody watching this live, you can use the chat feature to ask me any questions you have about strength training as an older adult, any challenges you're currently facing, anything you want to achieve but you're not quite sure how to get there, anything you can feel of that is related there. No stupid questions, please do ask me from there. But for now, I had one other question that came in on one of my chats this morning for the Stronger for Life members is it best to do strengthening exercises slowly or is it best to do them quickly? And her kind of reference point she was talking about, she's been going for a little bit, but she's been watching other people in the gym, and some people she sees doing things really quickly, others she sees slowly, some are quick on the way up, some on the way down, and she looks at them and she's just not sure, are they doing it right? Is the other person doing it right? Do they know what they're doing and it's just they've copied someone else and they don't know? She said it would be quite useful for people to have a little badge saying this is what my goal is, because it confuses her and she doesn't quite have the the knowledge yet to know what she should be doing, because she thought she was doing something at a good pace, and then suddenly seeing someone's doing quickly is, should I be doing that, should I not? And the question really is, it depends. So if you've got particular goals in mind, it might require you to do things more quickly, and for someone else a lot more slowly. So I'd always be wary of judging or comparing yourself to what other people are doing based on that, because people haven't all got the same goal as you. They're not all necessarily worried about the strength side of things, and more worried about sometimes hypertrophy or the aesthetics, or they are an athlete and they need to be able to do things at quick with speed. So everyone's normally working on their own thing, so try not to get too distracted by that. But in general, when you're strengthening, if muscle strength is the thing that we're really focused on trying to build, I would rather people do exercises slowly, particularly if you're new to this. We want to keep the muscle under tension all the way through. So it's a shoulder press. At no point have I used momentum as I'm coming up or down. Whereas sometimes if you sort of create a little bit of momentum, you skip past the middle bit and you kind of catch it close to the top. And as you come down, you kind of drop with speed and then catch it down at the bottom. There's a good chunk in the middle where you've relied on momentum on the way up and you've relied on momentum on the way down. So if we keep it nice and slow and controlled, we know at no point are we relying on momentum, and we can feel confident that our muscle has the ability to produce that force all the way through. Now, if you're a bit more advanced, you've already got good strength, there is something we call rate of force development. We want to be able to get the muscle to produce that strength as quickly as possible in some scenarios. So if you are walking from one room to another, you catch your toe on a raise, sort of the edge of a rug, your momentum and your body weight is continuing to fall forward. You want to be able to get that foot back in front of you and then have the strength to break that additional momentum and that body weight going forwards. If you can only access your strength slowly, you're not going to get your foot there in time and then not have the ability to react quickly to absorb that force. So you're more likely to end up falling. Whereas if you've trained to get the muscle strength quickly, then that's going to be a lot of an easier kind of process that happens automatically. So once you've got good strength and peak strength, then the next step is often training for that rate of force development, or training for power is generally defined as how quickly you can access to your strength as you're doing an exercise. And there's certain exercises that you could bring in a different. So you see people doing like clean and jerk type movements, and they're designed, you want to get the bar from the floor quickly up and then catch it down here and then drive and then push up. And they're done quick, snappy motions. But you can simply just do the exercises you're already doing. So you could do a squat and you could quickly drive up and explode up as quickly as possible. And then on the way, I tend to get people in the lowering phase, or what we call the eccentric phase, is you're going to try and do that as slowly as possible, and then again be ready to drive back up. You could do that shoulder press again, ready without using momentum anywhere else. Push the arms up quick and then slowly come down. Push quick, slow you down. And you can do it for all exercises. You can move with intent, as we're thinking. So how quickly can I do it? But if you've not really built strength in the first place, all your training is your ability to get your low level of strength more quickly. So it generally makes sense to make sure you've got a bit of strength first. And by doing that, you've also created some robustness and resilience to the tendons and the other soft tissues. Whereas if you do things explosively quickly without having allowed the body at all to adapt to working out with resistance or load, you could be at higher risk of causing yourself an injury. But if you've done a bit of a base strength behind you, then doing things quickly is a really good kind of progression of exercises. But it's more about that rate of force development. It's accessing your strength quickly. Say if you're really trying to build strength, we want to do things a bit more slowly with control. Good. So that is the 3 questions that I prepared for this live stream. If you are watching live, we've got the last sort of couple of minutes now. Here's your last chance to ask me anything now. But if not, just leave a message. If you're watching this later on, leave a message in the comments, and we can. I will answer that in a future week. But for now, whilst I'm waiting to see if any more questions come in, if you are interested in learning more about how you can start strength training as an older adult, then you might be interested in the Never Taught to Lift ebook. So it's, as mentioned previously, it's an ebook that is going to help guide you through all the theory, the goal planning process. It's going to give you a template to try and build out with exercises that you choose based on your ability level and around any conditions that you have, and then guide you through a progression over sort of minimum of 12 weeks onwards from there. And that's a free download. Just nevertaught-to-lift.com /start-here, or if you go into the link in the description, you'll be able to find that there. And yeah, I think that is it. I don't think we've got any more questions coming through. So thank you for turning up and for watching through to the end. And I'll be back next Wednesday at 12 o'clock, and I will see you there. So any questions before next Wednesday, please do leave those in the comments, and I will find those ready for next week. Brilliant. Again, apologies for the disruption in the middle with my computer crashing, but hopefully that won't be an issue next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.